some people are really kind of worried about the U.S., where I don't know if I'm going to get over the border. And if I get over the border, do I have to carry my passport everywhere just in case I meet up with an ICE agent?
Back on Closer Look for another week across the Village Media Network. You know, you often wonder what kind of an impact a show like ours has. And I'll tell you what kind of an impact we have. Last week, we talked about cloned meat.
Yes.
And what happened over the weekend?
All of a sudden. It happened the same week.
Well, Health Canada says, whoa.
I don't know if we want to take credit for that, but we can, you know.
Basically, well, in all fairness, we should give Dr. Charlebois some credit.
Yes, yeah, I think it was Dr.
You know, he's been great. We'll also take that. Just,
he was sounding the alarm.
Yeah.
For those who missed it, we did an episode on the ethics of cloned meat and whether you'd actually eat cloned meat. And the fact that, and this is not, again, to be clear, not lab-grown meat. This is meat from cloned animals and the offspring of cloned animals.
Yes.
It's actually been available in the U.S. for years for sale. And most people have no idea that they're buying
No idea.
it. They were going to change the rules here in Canada to allow it with no labeling. I know one producer sounded the alarm. Dr. Charlebois, who was our guest, sounded the alarm. It was not that he thought it was unsafe, because actually, when I went and did some reading over the weekend too, it's pretty safe. I mean, all the evidence, scientific evidence, that there's no difference. It's fine.
It was more the reluctance on the part of the government.
That's right. And it's also the fact that, okay, that's fine, but you still got to tell people what they're getting, right? You know, this is from a clone animal.
That's where we come in.
As Dr. Charlebois said, it was about transparency, not safety, right?
Right.
So, yes, you're right. So, Health Canada changed the rules. We put out a show, Health Canada changed the rules. I don't want to say that's why it happened.
I'm not saying
but if you want to
connection.
think that's why it happened, that's fine.
If you want to connect those dots.
Yeah. You can just draw a crooked line to those dots, however you want to do it. But it's true. Right. So, that's not going to happen. They've paused it indefinitely.
Yes.
They're going to do some more public consultation.
Yeah.
It sounds like they still want to do it. And their little statement makes it clear that if you go on the link, we can put it in the story today. There's a lot of research done, and they point to that research that it's safe.
Yes.
But definitely a talker, and we just wanted to update people on what was happening.
All right. Also last week, we spent some quality time with former Ontario Premier Dalton McGuinty.
Yeah, that was a great opportunity to sit down with the former Premier. You know, as you can imagine, this had a lot of commenters on there thinking about how they feel about Dalton McGuinty, and just like commenters often will write how they feel about all kinds of different politicians. Yeah. But it was an enlightening conversation. I think it just reminded me too of how difficult politics is. And I'm not excusing any politician or defending any politician, but it's a hard undertaking. Ugh. If you want to be the leader of anything, it's tough.
Yeah.
You want to be the leader of the province or the leader of the country, you take everyone's slings and arrows, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So you can agree or disagree with Premier McGuinty. He's 70 years old now. He hasn't been the premier for 13 years. His book was very good. We both read it.
Yeah.
It was an interesting book, had some, good insights on leadership. And we did ask him about the gas plant scandal, because that's the one scandal that just seems to live forever.
Yeah.
It's never gone away. It's the thing that people who are perhaps don't like the McGuinty years most point to about his years. And he answered it. And he actually talked about how he even addressed the fact that his former chief of staff was sent to jail over the wiping of those hard drives. Yeah. And I thought he answered those questions fairly and didn't shy away from them. He answered them.
And you talk about the slings and arrows. 13 years later, if you read the comments on YouTube or on any of our sites, he's still taking heat.
He still takes it. And I think that but as he said on the podcast, I don't think about that stuff.
No.
I can't. And I think it's a good point. You can't spend your whole life thinking about what other people think. You have to look at yourself and say, and what he did ask for, I think what every politician asks for, and it might be a bit of a stretch, but they all asked to be judged on their whole record.
Right.
Look at me for all the things I did, not for this one thing that we didn't do very well. And he said it wasn't a good decision. They made a mistake.
Yep.
It wasn't the best move. But that's, as he said, it is what it is. That's history. It's there. That was his quote. It is what it is. It's there. But if you didn't get to watch the interview with Dalton McGuinty, definitely check it out.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. Okay, today on the program, going to talk tourism and the one war that Canada seems to be winning in all of this.
The travel war.
The travel war, yeah.
We've talked about this on the show a couple times, just about the different rules that are coming into place for snowbirds traveling to America, for example. The fact that in time they're going to photograph everyone going to Canada.
Absolutely.
That's eventually going to be the policy. It might take a few years to roll it out completely, but that's going to be the policy. And we're starting to see a little bit of the numbers come out about how tourism is down in the United States because there's a lot of new rules and maybe some people are not feeling comfortable traveling there. Yep. And tourism is up here to the tune of billions of dollars, actually. So you have people – there's a few things going on. You have people from outside of North America saying, I want to go visit America, and they're saying, you know what, maybe I'll go to Canada instead. And so they're traveling to cities in our country. And then you also have the fact that people in Canada are choosing to stay in Canada and travel in Canada. So as we're going to hear from our guest today, it's a really big moment for the tourism industry in Canada, and how they're going to react to it is critical.
We might be losing the current trade war with the United States, but there's one battle that Canada appears to be winning, the travel war. Now, simply put, since Donald Trump took office, the Canadian travel industry is booming. The U.S., not so much. Here to help us break down the numbers and provide some context is Wayne Smith, the director of the Institute for Hospitality and Tourism at Toronto Metropolitan University. Professor, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good day.
All right, Wayne, let's start with the view from the 10,000-foot level. Do you think that's a fair description that Canada is winning against the U.S. when it comes to travel and tourism?
I don't think I'd describe it as winning or losing, but Canada is well positioned to do well. So a couple of things, tourism is a safety industry. It's very much a safety industry and always has been. People need to feel good about where they're going. They need to feel like they're going to be welcomed. They need to have ease of travel, easy to get over the border, the convenience of it, and they want to feel safe in the environment that they're in. And Canada is offering all those things right now, where some people are really kind of worried about the U.S., where I don't know if I'm going to get over the border. And if I get over the border, do I have to carry my passport everywhere just in case I meet up with a nice agent? Mm-hmm. And all these types of things, it creates a worry that makes people say, okay, maybe I need to think twice about that.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's dive into some of the numbers a bit, Wayne, if we can. The U.S. Travel Association, a nonprofit industry organization, is forecasting a 3.2% decline in international tourism spending in the U.S. compared to 2024, a loss of $5.7 billion U.S. Some of that is the fact that fewer Canadians are crossing the border. But what else is driving that?
Well, a couple different things. The U.S. is changing regulations quite a bit related to getting a visa. So they've made it much more difficult and much more challenging and time-consuming to get a visa to enter the U.S. So if you're not from a non-visa waiver country, you're going to be spending a lot of time and a lot of effort just to get the permission to go to the U.S. And then even when you get to the border guard, just because they approved you doesn't mean you're going to get in. It's still at the border guard's discretion whether or not you get in. So you could be taking months and potentially hundreds of dollars to get for the border guard to say, sorry, we're not going to let you in. No. So when you get into that situation, it creates one where people get really nervous and worried. The World Cup is supposed to be a huge boon for the U.S. next year. But once again, there are certain countries that if they haven't start putting in their border stuff, their visa waivers right now, they may not get it in time to go to the World Cup next summer. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. Are you surprised we've seen different numbers about just how many fewer Canadians are going across the border? I think we've seen a decline of 21% in air travel between February and October, a 33.5% decline in land travel. Do those numbers surprise you? Do you think it would be that much?
Okay. The numbers are actually higher than what you think. Because a couple different things. Remember, that's people who cross the border, like all traffic go over across the border. So if you're a truck going across the border, you get counted in that. If you're a person who works in Windsor and goes to work in Detroit, or, and there's a lot of Canadians who do that gets counted. So if you're looking at pure tourism as we think about tourism, that number is actually much higher as a percentage, because a lot of that travel that you're seeing going over the bridge is business and everyday type travel.
How much of the shift is emotional versus practical? Wayne, are Canadians truly worried about being hassled at the border, or is this more about making a point over tariffs and perhaps some political rhetoric?
Well, let's just say they're one and the same in this case. So what happens is that, I don't think any of these decisions are being made in a vacuum, right? It's just one thing that's going to do it. When we decide this type of things, we think about, okay, we have this very valuable time. My vacation time is extremely valuable. So if you only get 2-3 weeks a year, that time is extremely valuable. This is also really expensive to go to the States anywhere. You're probably talking $300-$400 a night in hotel rooms just alone. You start adding in fees, you start adding in everything, and it's a large expense. So when you're doing that, you want to reduce the risk as much as possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to be looking for a place where you can maximize and optimize your dollar spend and feel comfortable in doing so. And I think this is what we're seeing here with Canadians is that, okay, I'm not comfortable maybe supporting some of the political part of it. I'm not comfortable that I can cross the border and I may not get what I'm paying for. And these are all things that in a safety-based industry where you need to feel safe and secure to go to a destination, these are things that are going to be really, really important in the grand scheme of things for people to choose going to your destination. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize, that World Series, when people looked at Toronto and they looked at the stands behind the thing and they saw that multicultural environment, that created a whole impression of being welcome to Canada for around the world. And that look was tremendous. And I think it's going to put Canada in well stead when we get into the World Cup next year.
That's a great point. That's a great point, right? Because what you're saying is if I'm a traveler, say from Europe, for example, or from another part of the world, and I'm thinking, I want to go to North America. Do I want to go to New York? Well, maybe I'll go to Toronto instead just because of all those reasons you're saying. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and we're going to see people choose Vancouver or Toronto because, once again, ease of travel to get in. If you're from Europe, the euro versus the Canadian dollar, you're getting a discount trip. And then you add in top of that is the hassle-free of it. So, and I'm going to feel comfortable in this environment because I'm going into multicultural communities. So I can find the things that I'm going to feel good about and be welcomed in that community. And I know I'm going to feel welcomed.
Let's talk a little bit more about that, Wayne. If you're a Canadian tourism business, what should you be doing right now to capitalize on those types of examples that you just brought up and this rare advantage?
Well, I think what you need to do as a business right now is deliver quality service. And I think that's one of the big things. This is a chance to not just capture people for 1 year. This is a chance to capture markets for years upon years.
Right.
So you take a place like Halifax, who had a big year this year, probably the biggest winner across the country. And they had a bunch of visitors from Quebec. Instead of going to Old Orchard across the border, they went to Halifax. And if they had a great experience, that family tradition may not be going to Old Orchard anymore. That family tradition could be going to Nova Scotia or New Brunswick or PEI. And it's the same thing that you're seeing, once again, if you're from Calgary or if you're from Vancouver, instead of going south of the border, right? Maybe you're going to go to Jasper. Maybe you're going to go to the Okanagan and make that your family trip. And these are things that I think are going to be really important, that it's important. The industry needs to recognize this and provide really good value from dollar.
That's a great point. I'm sorry, I'm so distracted. Ever since you brought up baseball again, it just had me all nostalgic, realizing how much I miss baseball. Now I'm depressed, Wayne. I'll try to get over it. It is amazing, though, right? The tourism industry in Canada must feel pretty good right now, because what's kind of the U.S. loss is our gain. We're seeing that increase. I believe the numbers, Destination Canada, the country's tourism organization estimates year-over-year total tourism revenue for the lucrative summer season actually increased by about $3.3 billion. I'm assuming people in the industry that are talking to you are feeling pretty good right now?
The industry's feeling pretty good, but once again, it's just a step. And people can understand that tourism can get very cyclical very quick. So if you're not delivering what the customer wants, they're going to choose a different destination very quickly. So you need to constantly deliver to the customer. And they know that. And that's part of the conversation that they have, that when you're traveling, and we've got a couple things. We almost got like a perfect storm with the economy right now. When people start feeling nervous about their jobs and stuff like that, they stop taking 3-week trips. They'll take a bunch of 4-day weekends. And that's one of the things that drove a lot of interprovincial travel this year, was people taking shorter trips, getting in a car. They didn't want to fly with the Air Canada disruptions. All those things, all of that almost came together in a perfect storm to create an amazing domestic tourism marketplace this year.
It's a great point. It leads into my next question. I was going to say, how much of this tourism boom that we're seeing, if you want to put it that way, is people, Canadians, saying, you know what, I'm going to stay in Canada and go travel somewhere that I haven't been?
A couple of things that a really good indications of that. Via Rail is actually bringing back the Via Strong Pass for the holidays, which means it had to have worked, right?
Yes.
They wouldn't have done it if it didn't work. So the second thing that I want to say is we're seeing some of the trends. A lot of the first and second generation Canadians, especially the younger people, actually wanting to travel and visit the Canadiana. So you're getting a lot of younger people now who want to do the cultural and heritage type sites. Mm-hmm. So especially the first and second generation Canadians, and that's a pretty large population. Mm-hmm. So you're getting young people who are interested in Canada and interested in learning about the country and learning about our history and learning about our cultures. And that's something we haven't seen as a nation in a long time.
Mm-hmm. That's very encouraging to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Just to bounce back too, I'm wondering, I'd like to get your take on how much you think this issue that we've seen in the news lately about the U.S. Border Services taking photographs of Canadians as they come across the border. How much has that gotten into people's psyche? Is that part of the reason people are saying, you know what, that might be the final straw for me?
Well, a lot of this is because you're dealing with the snowbirds. Mm-hmm. So if you're going over 28 days, they're going to photograph and fingerprint you, basically. They call it biometrics. Mm-hmm. But the idea of it is, most of us, especially in certain categories, realize the U.S. has it already. It's not that big of a deal. And you travel to Europe, you travel anywhere, they're going to do the exact same stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's really not that uncommon. However, there is this idea that, especially amongst a lot of the seniors, this is one more barrier that you're putting up. I'm going to come down and I'm going to spend 3 months and I'm going to pay rent or buy my mortgage. I'm going to buy all my shopping down there. I'm going to spend tens of thousands of dollars, and you're going to make me feel like a criminal coming over the border. For a lot of senior snowbirds, that is a bridge too far. And you're potentially costing yourself a lot of money for very little security gain.
Wayne, you mentioned a bridge, and that's a nice segue to my next question. We're located in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, on the border of Michigan, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And the bridge for the longest time was just bumper-to-bumper traffic going across. These border communities have to be getting hammered.
Now, this is going to be the next big story coming out in the new year. The way U.S. does taxation is the feds work on a certain level with income and stuff like that. But most of the local and state taxes, a lot of that comes from the tourism industry. Mm-hmm. So you're going to see places like Niagara Falls, New York, or Buffalo, New York. You're going to see places like Orlando or Las Vegas have big time tax shortfalls. And they're going to have to cut services, and they're going to have to cut different things because of the lack of tourist taxation. So these communities, these border communities going all across, are going to face a heavy, heavy tax burden as a result. They're either going to have to cut services or raise taxes to cover up some of this cost, because the tourist taxes often are a big chunk of their municipal revenues.
It's a great point. You can imagine the reckoning that's coming too, because it's an issue that people in border communities understand this. We've heard U.S. senators and Congress people talk about this, that these communities they represent are in big trouble. But it seems to be falling on deaf ears, at least in the United States, Wayne.
Well, and the thing about it is, it's not going to come across till next March when they're having to pay the tax bill. Mm-hmm. The budgets are done. You're going to get into a new fiscal year. Then they're going to look around and say, we had a shortfall this year of this, and this. Mm-hmm. And, and the thing about it is, the way the U.S. taxation is done is local and state taxes are especially going to be hurt by this.
Yeah.
Nevada is going to take a beating this year. Las Vegas, its county, it's going to take a big beating. So we're starting to see some really big challenges. And Orlando is another one that you're starting to see talking about, okay, what services are they going to end up having to cut as a result of this?
Mm-hmm. It's the cultural shift too. I don't know if you saw over the weekend, but there's that big security conference in Halifax happening now where U.S. politicians, Canadian politicians, lots of experts have gathered to talk defense security. Democracy is the big theme of this year's conference. And I believe it was a U.S. Senator from Maine who brought up an interesting point about how the deeper problem, as far as he sees it, is the cultural break, right? Yes, it's the economic break, but it's this idea that Canadians don't think of Americans as their friends anymore. That idea seems to have stuck, and that they think of them as adversaries, not neighbors. And we're seeing that in the border communities we're talking about. Is that something you think will linger as long as, say, this current administration is in place, or is this something that we can repair?
I want to flip this on its head a little bit. Us as consumers, we're very habitual. If we like a certain brand and we like a certain things, we keep going back and back and back because we know we're going to get a good experience with this. What we're doing now is what our friends in the US have done is break the pattern. So instead of going to Vegas, instead of going to Orlando's, instead of going to Old Orchard, instead of going to Bellingham, pick your place across, you're breaking new patterns, and these people are now visiting other places. And you're opening up a whole opportunity for them to capture that marketplace that's going to stick around for quite a while. So whether or not I've not seen any numbers on how long we think this is going to last in terms of the distrust, but I will tell you that it is driving consumers to look at a whole bunch of new places. So, for example, a lot of snowbirds are now looking at Portugal. A lot of snowbirds are looking at Mexico or the Dominican Republic, and they're finding, hey, the healthcare costs are cheaper, more accessible, less taxes, less paperwork. And all of a sudden, if they're finding alternatives, they're going to stay with the alternatives if the alternatives work for them. And this is one of the things that when you break a pattern, the consumer will look for a better alternative. And if they find it, they're going to stick with it.
Wayne, not to make this personal, but why not? We're all friends here. Are you traveling to the U.S. or have you recently, or anything in the near future?
Well, I used to have a green card once upon a time, and I have several friends and several family members down there. I don't know is the question. I keep waiting and waiting and waiting. And if something changed, maybe I, as a professional who understands this, look at it and say, oh, yes, no.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what I'm going to do, to be honest with you. I want to be supportive of the Canadian industry because it's a wonderful industry, but I have friends who are in their late 70s who can't travel to me. And I would like to see them.
You're right. And I think you nailed it on the head. We're all struggling with that same question. We're not tourism professionals, but we're struggling with that too. I know we had that debate in the summertime about whether we head over the border because we go to Michigan every summer and check different things out. And it was a tough decision. A lot of things to think about. Yeah.
And the thing about it is that, it feels a lot riskier than it ever did before. Mm-hmm. And that one feeling can make a big difference in the marketplace.
Mm-hmm. I know you have to go in. I want to ask you real quickly. Yeah. When we look back on this period of time for the tourism industry, say a decade from now, what do you think it will show us?
It'll show us that did we take advantage of this opportunity as a Canadian tourism industry? We have a lot of people who are interested in us. We have a really good opportunity to establish new travel patterns, especially amongst young people. We have Europeans coming to visit, particularly the East Coast. The Asian market, it was really interested in the West Coast and in the North. You had a bunch of young Canadians who are newer Canadians or first and second generation who wanted to know about the country. All these things put together, we have an opportunity to create a sustainable tourism marketplace that I think could go a long way and be established for a long time and be very profitable on one side, but also nation building on the other. So I'm hoping that we take advantage of this opportunity to really build something special.
Let's hope that's the case. Okay, we know you got a lot of exams to mark, Wayne. Before we let you go, though, anything that we didn't cover tonight that you'd like to mention?
Well, I think the one thing that when we start talking about this industry that I'd like you to kind of keep in mind is that, what we need to understand is how do we create travel that people feel safe, people feel welcome, and people feel like they're going to get value for dollar. We do those three things, we're going to be in a really good shape. Our friends down south are kind of actually kicking all three of those down the street, down the street, and it's going to hurt them long term. And even domestically, where the domestic market in the States, where people don't feel good about jobs, you're seeing these layoff numbers all over the place. You're seeing all those. Their domestic market is going to get hammered, and we have believe it or not, with the Canadian exchange rate. we have a really good opportunity to capture a lot of those Northeast or Northwest Americans coming to Canada. So there's a lot of opportunity here that if we took advantage of, we could create jobs for our communities for a long, long time.
All right, there's Wayne Smith, the director of the Institute for Hospitality and Tourism at Toronto Metropolitan University. Wayne, good to see you tonight. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, and anytime.
I don't know about you, but every time I think about the possibility of going stateside, I feel guilty.
Yeah, do you?
I do.
Yeah, you're not patriotic?
Well, I'm very. Look,
that's what I'm saying. You don't feel patriotic by good.
No, I feel like I'm There's no breaking the rules. Mm-hmm. Not going to do it. Mm-hmm. Used to love traveling there, but it just, I don't know, just doesn't feel right.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Like I said to Dwayne, we had a very heated discussion over the summer. We'd go to Comerica Park to see the Tigers every year. It's a family tradition. It's my favorite place on earth. The kids grow up fast. Who knows how many more games we're going to go together.
Absolutely.
And we decided to go. And I did feel guilty about it. But then I was angry because I'm like, why has this got to ruin my favorite thing in the world that I go to, that we do?
Well,
and we thought about, could we go to Toronto and see them play, but that didn't work out with our schedule the weekend they were in town. I don't know. I guess it's like anything. I understand why people make their own decisions. There's still tens of thousands of snowbirds going to live in the United States. That's their call. They do what they think is best. What struck me most about the conversation was the economic side. And we remember this, right? The fact that he reminds us that a single snowbird couple would spend thousands and thousands of dollars that winter, whether it be on accommodations, rent, whether if they're staying at a resort that they're renting, restaurants. They're spending all their money south of the border.
Yep.
So it's not going into the Canadian economy. On the flip side, he talked about how the fact that right now our tourism industry here is doing well at a time when there's a lot of economic uncertainty. It's good news. It means people are working and they have those jobs exist there's demand for those jobs. So it's a good news story for Canada. I do think he's right in the sense that we'll look back on this in a few years. And did we take advantage of it? It was a great question you asked. I mean, what do we do if you're a tourism operator? How do you take advantage of this? If you have all eyes are on Canada, people are saying, I'm not going to go over there. I'm going to come over here. So what do I go see?
And I know here in Canada, and I've heard this from several people, that they've adopted the philosophy that we live in this, beautiful country. Let's explore it. Mm-hmm. There's so much beauty in our very own country to see.
Absolutely.
I know we've started doing that, trying to check off all the provinces and territories.
You guys have done that.
Yeah, because we just live in the best place in the world.
Oh, yeah. You could jump in your car and just go driving, especially up Northern Ontario. You can go either way up here.
Oh, it's great.
And the other thing, just to hammer home the point, too, it's endlessly fascinating to me, the cross-border communities and what has changed. We live in one, Michigan, right across. You can see it across the river from our office. But there's so many border communities in Canada and the United States where they share. Whereas, that senator at that conference in Halifax mentioned that, people go across the river for a haircut.
Oh, my God,
barbers.
Yep.
That's what it was like here.
Yep.
And I drive by that bridge every day on the way to work, and there's not a single vehicle going. And I don't even see trucks going over. Because I look every time.
Yep.
And I never see a car going either way. It's been months since I've seen a vehicle.
And if you don't live in a border community like we do, you may not appreciate this, but it was a thing that you would go across and you would buy your gas and you'd pick up a case of beer and maybe some milk and some eggs because it was that much cheaper when the dollars were a little closer to each other. But you're right. Now it's like ghost town.
There is a researcher, I believe it's at Northern Michigan University. Maybe we can ask him to come on the podcast at a future date. But he's been kind of tracking that area of the world, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and how it's the border rules and the tariffs have impacted. And what he's noticed, he's even checking what people are Google searching in that area.
Oh, wow.
And people searching cross-border shopping into Sioux, Michigan is way down. But way up are people asking, like, can I go tour in Algoma region, like in Canada, on the Canadian
Interesting.
side? So it's funny how it's not just you're not seeing it in the border crossing numbers, you're seeing it in Google searches. It's a fascinating time to be watching all this stuff happen.
It certainly is. All right.
Bottom line, we should go on a trip together.
Three of us.
Or not.
Road trip.
We've done that once.
Across the country.
It was pretty good.
Well,
we should do that again.
Thank goodness the cameras weren't rolling 24 hours a day of that trip. Let us know what you think. Are you traveling to the United States during the winter or any other time? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Closer look at villagemedia.ca. And if you have yet to do so, please subscribe. Closer Look Podcast .ca, we'd love for you to do just that. For Derek Turner, producer of this evening's program, and Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow night at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.